Okay, we're going to start with Taf Lamed Gimel Sif Yud Aleph. Difficult halacha for people to accept in Hilchos bedikah chametz. And if I'm telling you it's a difficult halacha to accept, you can believe me, right? Okay, Hamachabed Chedroi B'Shloisha Aser B'Nisan. A person swept, they cleaned their room on before bedikah chametz. Umechaven livdoi kachametz ulevaroi. And the reason he was doing this was to get rid of the chametz. He was doing this for halachic purposes. V'nizer shaloi lahachnis sham od chametz. And from the time that they did the sponge gedola, we're not taking in any chametz anymore. So, what is the halacha? Afal pikein tzarich livdog belel arba asar. Even though you got rid of all your chametz and you cleaned everything up, it doesn't help. Why? Because bedikah chametz has a regimen to it. It has to be done in a certain way, and if it wasn't done in that certain way, it doesn't count. So what you did was a prelude. You did it so now that you don't have a problem, it'll be easy for you to make a bedikah, and therefore your life will be easier. But you did not absolve yourself from any chiyuv. And I had somebody tonight, he asked me, my office, I cleaned everything spick and span, and I'm planning to use my office on Pesach. So I said, you have to make a bedikah in your office. It doesn't help, right? Because this is the halacha. You have to do the process of bedikah chametz, and that has a specific way that it has to be done. So that we learned about last time. In my opinion, you don't have to. It's part of your chiyuv. You have one chiyuv to take care of all of your places. Now I'm going to continue and share with you a question that was asked this week. And I was very disturbed. Sometimes people ask you questions and you give them an answer, say, where's the source? And you give them the source, and they're not satisfied. So I'm going to tell you what happened. Says the Ramah, V'chol adam tzarich lechabed chedrov kodev bedikah. Not only does it not help to make a bedikah beforehand, you have to do this thing which doesn't help. Right? In other words, your bedikah is not supposed to be a painful experience. It's supposed to be that you're cleaning, you're not cleaning, you're checking something that is already clean. So you're mechuyev to sweep beforehand, you have to make sponge gedola, and then you make your bedikah. Now, V'hakisim obate yad shel begodim shenoisnim behem lefamim chametz tzrichem bedikah. Places like pockets or other such places need to have a bedikah. Now, I'll just share with you my personal experience. When I was a bocher, I never checked my pockets. And the reason why, I never would ever put anything in my pocket that was food. I just wouldn't. That was like a disgusting thing to do. I would never do it. And the halacha is, this is a very important halacha we're going to see in a minute, a thing which a person doesn't usually think about, he doesn't realize that he does it. And that concept is extremely important. In other words, if I were to ask the average fellow that has a desk at work, do you ever put chametz in your food in your drawer? He'll say no. Then I'll say, but I remember I was once in your office and there was a party and someone gave you a chocolate bar and you put it in your office. Oh yeah, but that happens once in a while, right? No, that's called milsa d'loi rami ina shanavshe, a person who doesn't put it into his mind, lavadaite, he forgets about it. It's not part of his regular routine, and therefore it doesn't count that which he says it's not there. We don't believe him. Why don't we believe him? He's not being, I'm going to use this mashal. This is a very fascinating mashal. When I was a bocher, I had to make tefillin for somebody from America. And there was a whole problem. It took over 2 years for the parshas to be ready. Finally, the guy said, come and get the parshas. I came to get the parshas. He said, I can't give them to you. So I said, why not? He said, they were on my night table last night, and they fell into the Negev Wasser water this morning. and they're valueless. So I'll write you another pair. Okay? He wrote me another pair a month later. Whatever. Listen. And he gives them to me. I take them to my Magia, and the Magia shows me, he says, this guy erased something and changed something. So, it's a very reputable cipher. I went back to him and I asked him. He says, yeah, but must have been I changed it before I went further, and it's 100% okay. Now, if a person would tell that to me, he's Nemun. But I didn't have a good feeling. So I went to my Rosh Yeshiva, and I asked my Rosh Yeshiva, what do I do? So he asked me the following questions, a fascinating piece of understanding the world. Did he say he remembers what happened, or he said, you can rely upon me, if that's the way it looks, this is what must have happened. So he says, if he tells you, I remember, and that's what happened, they're great. Take them, love them, use them. But if he's just saying, I know me and I rely on me, and it must be this is what's happening, he's not being made anything. He's just assuming. Right? And you're not mechuyev to rely on his assumption. So I went back to the fellow. It's a very unpleasant kind of question to ask a guy. And he said, no, I'm just telling you that it can't be that I did something. So I said, I don't want the tefillin, maybe write me another pair. And he said, no, thank you, I'm not willing to. So it took me another 6 months till I got a pair of tefillin for this person. Okay? But the point is, when a person says, I didn't put any chametz in my desk drawer, he's like the cipher saying that I didn't erase anything. You understand? I believe him that he believes that that's what happened. But I don't believe him that that's what happened. You understand? So the same thing applies when a person has situations that arise that are not normal. A person could do things which he doesn't normally do, and it wouldn't go into his mind that I did this, and therefore even places even places that he doesn't. I'll read the Mishnah Berurah. Even if I say I'm positive I didn't put chametz there, we say that he doesn't know, and therefore he has to check it. Okay? So this is the Rama over here says something fascinating. He says that your pockets and your things like that, you have to check that that there's no chametz inside of them. When does that have to be checked? So there is a difference in different mefarshim and Shulchan Aruch when it should be checked. According to some, it has to be checked bedikah chametz night and beer chametz morning. According to others, it just has to be checked in the morning, because since you use your pockets, the rest of the time, you have to check them. Now, I'd just like to I'm going to share with you what is done in my house. In my house, let's say I have a jacket or a pair of pants that I'm going to be using on Pesach. The pockets are checked, and they're put hanging outside in. The pockets are sticking out, and therefore there can't be anything inside of them. This takes care of the problem. I don't have to check them because there cannot be any chametz inside of them. So that takes care of this problem. Okay, this is what this Rama says, and I'd like to share with you the question which somebody asked me. He says, I'm going away for Pesach, and I'm going to a kosher hotel, and I'm going there on Erev Pesach, on Friday. I'm going on Friday. And I'm going to be sleeping in my house, and I'm selling my house with, so I don't have any area to make a bedikah on, because where I'm going is checked, and where I'm leaving is checked. Can I make a bedikah on my car? Okay? What did you say?
I said probably.
Okay, I don't think that's what you said before.
For sure.
Okay, so the answer is yes, you have to check your car, but you can't make a bracha on your car. Why is that? Because no, even if you have an arbal.
I don't mean a 4x4.
Yeah, I understand.
Where you live.
It's because it says bevatechem, and Chok Yankiv and others say it has to be to make a bracha. It has to be mechuber lekarka. It has to be karka. There are those.
Does that mean it's not a doraisa? There's something
I didn't
there?
say that. I just said that. I was very specific what I quoted. There are those that discuss a person who has a mobile home. Somebody wrote a chaveret on the subject of mobile homes and halacha, and from the two things that stick out in my memory about them is there is a famous marsham in Chuvas in Hilchos Chanukah about a person who has a sleeping berth on a train. Can he light Chanukah candles in the sleeping berth? And the Marsham says you can't. Others say you can. Others say that you can't. And there are those that extrapolate to your mobile home. In my opinion, a mobile home is much better. A mobile home, I would imagine whoever wrote this tshuva on mobile homes never did it. Yeah. Okay, you did it, right? Yes, you did it, right?
No, I didn't. But I didn't think about it.
Okay.
I thought about it about 40 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Cars are not considered mechuber lekarka.
What?
Cars are not considered mechuber.
They're not mechuber lekarka. Why?
So from muktzah, so touching the car.
No. There's a different halacha of you have something which is larger than a certain size. We treat it like karka for certain halachas, but it doesn't make it mechuber lekarka. I'll just tell you. And I'm just saying this as this building that we're in, I'm not really so sure how mechuber lekarka it is. This is a caravan which was plopped down. It was plopped down in 3 different sections. This is five? Okay, whatever. It's just put down on posts. Now, after they do that, there's some cement, like when you come in the front door, that they make some kind of a connection that makes it mechuber lekarka.
Pretty much any house building something in a karka, a log cabin, let's say.
A log cabin and a house. A house in America has foundations, and it's built on the foundations, and the foundations are in the ground.
Yeah,
The house,
500 years ago.
but no, even like 60, 70 years ago, the house.
Your house 100 years ago, your floor was dirt. You were mamash on karka.
Right, but the house 60, 70 years ago was built without a connection between the wooden house and the concrete foundation. It was just rested on top. And so in California, I've heard that when there was an earthquake, the foundation would shift and the house would stay in the same place, and it wouldn't work so well. And now it's actually.
But even those are somehow, they're usually connected to the foundation somehow.
Today for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just saying this is a question which has all kinds of halachic abnormalities to it, but it's not anything which is on the ground in a permanent place is usually called karka. So if
you have a tent and the ground is just the dirt,
that's karka, yeah.
That's karka.
Yeah. Okay. So this halacha is very important, and I'm just going to read over another the Mishnah Berurah over here. Not just a regular house that you could assume it wasn't swept. When you swept the house, your intent was to make a bedikah. Gam kein loy mahani. V'av pi kein tzarich livdoik. Shakibud einu bedikah gemura. Kibud is not a bedikah gemura. Shem nishtay chametz be'ez aguma. ואפילו אם בודק לאור הנר בחור מסתוקים, גם כן צריך לעזור לדוד לייקה לכל ישראל. שלא לחלק בין בדיקה לבדיקה. Even if you did it, לאור הנר, but you didn't do it in the proper time, so you didn't fill out the technical criteria for a bedikah, and then you have to do it again. Okay. ולפי מה שקרסו ליוספל, בלאו הכי אין לסמוך על בדיקת היום, אפילו לאור הנר, שהנר אינו מאיר ביום כל כך כמו הלילה. So, most people in today's generation would say, yeah, you know why the ner isn't mayor so good in the day as it does at night? Because you have much better light, right? And that's exactly the point. That's the chesaron, because when you have much better light, you don't strain yourself to check.
Not focused.
Right. But it's not even, the light is more intense, so you don't use it the same way. Okay.
You have to switch off the lights.
Okay, there are those who say that one should switch off the lights because of this problem. Okay, והמנהג לחבר כל הבית החדור מיום 13 כדי שיוכל לעשות בדיקה כדין בתחילת 14. כמו שכתוב בשעת הבדיקה, מנהג ליטול נויצה לחבר היטב במקומות החורים וצדוקים ולגר משם החומץ עם הנויצה. That person is supposed to use a feather to take out the crumbs of chametz that he finds. Okay.
How important is that feather thing?
I don't know. I have a feather with me. I use it probably once in 3 years.
I mean, basically we're finding the pieces that are either wrapped in foil or bagged or whatever.
Yeah, but there sometimes you'll find. Okay, sometimes you'll find between like your stove and your wall, you'll find a crumb or something like that. I don't know. I find every year I find something. Not always all the 10 pieces, but I always find something. Okay.
You have to burn the feather in the spoon?
The minig is to burn the feather in the spoon, but it doesn't have to be.
What's the idea of the wood spoon? Where did a wood spoon come to be?
Metal one won't
Cheaper
burn.
than that.
I know, but I mean, the spoon is the head of the spoon is so small. You can't get all the crumbs inside there.
Okay. I don't know.
Because of burning, it burns.
Yeah, there's a minig to burn it, but that's where it comes from. Okay. That's as far as this is concerned. Now,
We would just put it on the spoon and then do a balancing act to get it
Exactly.
back.
okay. I'm going to Taf Lamed Vov, Sif Beis.
It gets going.
Okay, so we're going to discuss you right now. Okay. Yesh Ayrim, the Koidem Shloshim Yoim, Ein Tzorch Livdoik, Hainu Kishein Daito Lachzor B'Soich HaPesach. If a person is leaving his house before 30 days before Pesach, he's not mechuyev to make a bedikah. Afal pisha daito lachzor koydem HaPesach Achrov, Ein Tzorch Livdoik. Kivon Shu Koidem Shloshim Yoim. And when it'll come Pesach, Shagia Pesach Yibat Leno. Avol daito lachzor B'Soich HaPesach. If when he left he was planning to come back by Pesach, Tzorch Livdoik afilu miRosh Hashanah. You're mechuyev to make bedikas chametz even from Rosh Hashanah. V'mshagach v'lei badak yivatel kishagia Pesach. When it comes Pesach time, you have to make a bittul on it. V'lo yivorach al habittul. Okay?
On the bittul?
On the bittul. Well, if you're making a bedikah, then you're...
But how can you check something 4 months before when you're going to still be there for another?
No, we're talking about you leaving.
So if you're leaving 4 months just before you leave,
Person lives in Florida and is coming to Eretz Yisrael, for
3
instance,
months before Pesach.
right?
So it makes a big just
Right.
before you leave, and then
Right.
no one.
Okay. וגם אישתו תבדוק ותבטל בביסו, דמו ישכח לבטל במקום שהוא. Okay. Here. יש שם דקויד דהו בעל ההקל ולשון מגומגום קצח. וצריך ללמד מה שאומר דקוידם של השיר אין צורך לבדוק, הוא אף כשדאיתו לחזור קודם פסח, ורק שלא יהיה דאיתו לחזור בסך הפסח. Today azu lo sfile masha kasa lechashin shema yovo erev Pesach ben hashmoshes. Kiwon shukodim shloshes yom avol toich shloshim yom chol olav chayvas bedikah. Now this halacha is very important because according to many, from Purim there's such a thing as chametz. When does something become chametz? So once there's a stoma of matzah, so then there became a thing of chametz. Okay? And right now he has chametz. Al kein tzach bedikah. Kvar is bar b'losef. The chol zeh mash the yom yetz v'shiyara. Avo b'derech kroy v'vadai telach zakoyim Pesach lo ychashinim v'samchinim d'yivda k'shiyavoy. I, who left Yerushalayim this evening, did not have to make bedikas chametz last night because I was coming to Beit Shemesh today. Because I can rely that I'm going to make it back home tonight. Okay. If it's on Pesach, he already can't be mevatel, but everybody rabbi yimatzah. The day is who adin sha'oisa beisa oitzer. The day rishayna toli b'chavis habedikim medaytel lefanos the Pesach. Well, the day is davkim medaytel lefanos toich Pesach. Well, inyan dina poskar b'achorin diyesh lahach b'kedei rishayna mikomakom. במקום הדחק, כגון שיוצא מבית שיור קאי גבנה, יש לסמוך על די האחרונה, ואין צריך להחזר ימין די תולובו תוך הפסח פיר עיצר. ובודק לא היה צריך לבטל, גם כן בשעס הבדיקה. Okay, now, סif גימל. ישראל היוצא מבייס עקום תוך 30 יום, ונכנס בבייס אחר בעיר זו, או שהולך לעיר אחרת, אינו צריך לבאר Beis ha'akum sharei kiyam mitzvahs bir ba'oisa ba'is acher. If a person is leaving his rental unit and he's going to have a new rental unit, he will be makayim his mitzvahs bedikas and bir chometz in his new residence. Avlu mefarish hayetzel b'shayara v'lo yikanes b'pesach b'bayis. But if he's going to be on the road over Pesach, yesh mi shomer shechol alav chayves bir kivan shu toich 30 yom. And he has a house that has chametz. But tzarich levar beis ha'akum kashu yotzei menu kidei lekayim mitzvahs bir. V'aval pi she'akum yikones b'bayis b'pesach v'yeshomer she'en tzarich she'yikones kashu yichones b'akum. Even though, according to some, even though you know a guy is going to take it over, you still has a obligation. Okay. Now, I'm going to do Taf Lamed Zayin. Sif Beis. I have this question all the time. People going away for the first day's Yantif or the whole of Yantif, and they want to sell their house and be done with it. That's why they're going away, right? And it's actually, this happened this morning. It's after davening in shul, and someone comes over and says, I want you to sell my office and part of my house, because there are people staying in my house for Leil HaSeder. It's somebody I know for about 40 years, and he says, please make sure my wife doesn't know that they're staying there. I put a key someplace, and I told them that they can come into the house after we leave, but I don't want my wife to know, because my wife, if she knows that there are people going to be there, then she has to arrange the whole house for them. You know, it's a whole pain in the neck. And, she doesn't feel up to doing that chesed, but I'm up to doing the chesed without doing her madrega of chesed. Okay, so this is how rabbis get shalom bias issues. Okay, so this guy is giving his apartment away to somebody else, and he's going away. So now, who has a chiyuv bedikah? Okay, so when is he going away and when is he coming? Okay, let's see. If you're taking over somebody's apartment on your dalid, if he's in the area, ask him. And if the guy's gone, he went to Dubai like many people did this year, you could assume it's Badik. And you just have to make a bittul in your leiv, because you could assume the person did what he was supposed to do. This happens all the time. I told people I'm going to make a bedikah before I leave on my plane to America, and I got stuck changing my baby's diapers, so I never did that. The new guy comes in and he says, "What do you mean? The guy told me he's going to make a bedikah." It doesn't help what he told you. You want to stay in that apartment, you have to make a bedikah. Okay? It's not called a mekach tois. The guy is making bedikah chametz, he's doing a mitzvah. Says Rama, the rent, the masker, it's not good. The word is not the rent. I don't know. What?
The owner.
Not the tenant, the other guy.
The owner.
The owner, yeah. He has to refund him what it would charge, what the price for doing a bedikah is. Okay? Okay. Bayis shahuchsik shaloi bat koy hamasker. Rama isha ever aykaten anu badaknuhu. And there are minors or a woman who says that she made a bedikah. Hare elon emonim. They're believed. Okay? Vu sheyeh cotton sheyesh boy das livdak. It has to be a cotton that has a minimal amount of understanding to understand what's going on. Now I'm going to go to this, what I call the fun sif. Tisha tziburim shel matzah. Okay, and this is done. I don't want to sif aleph, one of the sif bays.
The people that go to hotels, Rav, they should really be there on the Thursday, on the night before Pesach.
You're gonna pay their night.
Yeah. So they rely on Ahmed or Mohammed to check them.
That's who owns the apartment? Who owns the hotel?
I guess it's
A Jew or a guy?
Well, if it's in Israel, it's probably a Jew, I guess.
And if it's in England, it's probably a guy, right? Yeah. Most hotels in the world are owned by goyim, right? No. If I rent a hotel room on Chalamoid in Dubai, I have to make a bedikah. If you rent a hotel room in Dubai on Chalamoid,
you're owning it.
Right. Any place that you're dwelling on Pesach, you have to make sure that there's a bedikah done.
So it doesn't matter whether it's owned by a Jew or a guy?
No, if it was owned by a Jew, you could assume that he made the bedikah.
Oh.
Right? No, it does make a difference.
And you can really assume that?
So a hotel here which is owned by a Jew.
Right. So these are the questions, which are questions. You know, you tell me, could you trust a person's kashrus? You know, who? There are Jews and there are Jews. Let's just leave it like that. Okay? But theoretically, you can assume that if it was owned by a Jew, that the Jew did what he was supposed to do. If he's a Jew that you assume he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, so you can assume over here also he didn't do. You know, this is uniform with what goes on with him the other 350 days of the year.
His kitchen, you would assume that the mashgiach is going to watch over to make sure the food is kosher, but not necessarily the mashgiach will watch over to make sure the housekeeping.
Right, 100%, that's 100% true. And that could be true whether it's a Jewish or a non-Jewish owner. There's nothing to do with it. People generally only do what they're obligated to do. And the mashgiach is not going to go and get into an argument with the balabas about his things. Okay. Hiniach tisha kikros chametz u'motza asara. Okay. V'chein hiniach asara motza tisha tzarich livdok achar kol asara. Sh'anu omer ma she hiniach nito ve'ela acherim heim.
Sounds like birds.
Right, this is like the Gemara in Beitza. That's exactly what the same idea. Okay. ויש שם הרבה בקשורים יחד, אבל אם אינם קשורים יחד, אין צריך לבדוק אלא אחר האחד. You only have to search for the one. Okay.
These, now they're saying outside the shul, pre-prepared, like packages with 10 little pieces of chametz in it.
Yeah.
I've never seen such a thing before. Is there any advantage to using something like that? Or is just
I'll tell you,
business?
there's, first of all, how big should the pieces chametz be?
Less than kazayas.
Okay. So, there's some people not sure how big a kazayas is, and other people are afraid that they may package it in a way that it could get crummy on the way. So this, these are sealed, vacuum-packed things. You don't have that problem. But there's no reason for it. I don't want to ruin anybody's parnas over here, but it's not something which has yeah. Okay. So this is just like to see this halacha. Where are we? Okay. Damina hani achridu sheish achri v'im kan kivan she'eno makiram v'hanachtisha she'niach chuldas garam v'tzach livdek achareim afilo bitel koidem ma she'niach nital gam zeh afilo bitel koidem v'yeshem ha'sefer koi b'kshurim yachad devad im misha lachom lachakulam v'shem ha'ktana v'achbo ha'chulda lachom v'tzach livdek achareim. Okay, now I just would like to make a statement which is very important every year. The Shulchan Aruch makes a very big deal about this. After I make bedikah chametz, I have the 10 pieces of bread, or I have whatever I'm going to be eating tomorrow morning on a regular year, there's a special obligation to put it into a place that's shamur. Okay, because if it's not shamur, then we have to be choishish that maybe some achbar came and, dispersed it somewhere. This year, in particular, this halacha is more complicated. I'm just going to share with you the bedats and most hachsherim, most batidinim, that when they have their chametz sold to the goy, the chametz is sold before Shabbos. There are those that have it happen at the regular time, and there are those that have it happen, they make the kinyanim early, and it happens like right before Shabbos is chal. But on Shabbos, the chametz is already sold. And what is the nafkamina of this thing? All of the chametz that you put away to eat on Shabbos is not included in the mechira, and it must be disposed of by the time that things have to be disposed of, and that's your responsibility. Now, the reason why this is what's done is because there's a true Rabbi Kiveger, Moshe Feinstein, many poskim hold that it's forbidden to do a kinyan on Shabbos, even though I'm doing nothing. In other words, if I say I'm making a kinyan on this pen and I want the kinyan to be chal, it should become mine on Shabbos morning. You're not allowed to do that, because you're not allowed to have a kinyan be effectuated on Shabbos. And this is learned out of a Gemara in Yuma. The Gemara in Yuma says that the Kohen Gadol, he would have to have a second wife, because maybe his wife would die and he would end up not married, and it says so he has to have a wife. So he would always have an extra wife on hand. So the question that Rabbi Yeager discusses based on the Gemara, why can't he be Makadosh a second wife al Tanai? That if the first one dies, then she becomes his wife automatically. And if his first wife dies on Yom Kippur, so immediately the next second he has this new wife. And that would work. One could work that out. That should work with Hilchos Tanayim. So the Kiege says, from here we see that you cannot have a kinyan, have a chalais on Shabbos, because even though you're not doing any action of the kinyan, but it's going to happen at that time. And this is, I'll just share with you from the modern day questions. A person has stocks and he puts in a buy or sell order, and it could happen on Yontif. Shabbos usually the stock market's closed, but on Yontif the stock market is opened. Can he make such an order, and it comes on Yontif? Is the agent allowed to, the broker allowed to buy or sell for him? This is a serious question. Okay, but this is the concept of making the kinyan, but it's very important this year to keep in mind that you don't fall into this problem of having chametz on Pesach. Okay.
How can we learn it out from the question of the wife and the Kohen Gadol? Because I was thinking maybe there's another reason there why you can't do it, because won't that woman be a Suffolk Ashes is all the time? She won't be able to marry anyone, will she? Suffolk could wait until perhaps the Kohen Gadol's wife would die. So you don't want to put any woman into that situation.
After we could undo the kinyan after Yom Kippur. That's not a problem. Okay. Now I would just like to share with you a question which has to do with the next sif. I was in America for Pesach once since I'm married, and the place that I was in had the following question. They had a freezer, and Kamat, the whole freezer was full of stuff that they sold. And the freezer broke on Pesach. Can you have a guy come and fix the freezer? Now, the question that I would like to floor over here is a fascinating question. The halacha is that a person has roitze b'kiyumai of chametz of a goy is also a problem. If I want that the goy should have chametz, and I have some kind of a relationship to that chametz, so then it would be a problem. So the question over here is, can these freezers be fixed?
So the chametz was sold to a goy.
The chametz was sold to a goy.
So if you don't fix it, the goy's property is going to get damaged.
Right. What's your problem?
If you do fix it, it means you're interested in the chametz. But it's not, because it's not your chametz.
So but that's why I said you're right to the kiyumai of the chametz of a guy.
Because you sold the goy a product, and if you destroy the product, then there's no sale. They're attractive.
I'm a ganav. Why is there no sale?
No, fine. So yeah, okay.
Right.
That's a problem also.
No, but if I'm right to the kiyumai, then it becomes a problem. I want the guy to have his chametz. Okay? In other words, normally I have no interest in the guy and his chametz. But in this situation, when I have a interest, there's a reason why I have an interest.
You have to compensate.
No, because I'm not going to be able to get it back from him after Pesach. What's going to happen?
I said both ways there's a problem. It's a problem if you fix it because you're seemingly interested in it, but it's not yours really. But in the back of your mind you think it's yours. But if it gets ruined, and then you cause the guy a mandatory loss because the ferry is his.
I caused the guy. Let him go and fix his own freezer.
Fine, yes, you have to notify him.
So you notify him,
right. And then he can choose whatever he wants to do.
And what do you think he's going to do? Nothing.
Right.
Right.
It's not worth his while. He's not making much money.
Right. And what's going to happen?
So
okay, that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to fix it, right? So this is a serious question. I'll just tell you, the only times that I had this question, that I was asked this question, halacha l'maisa, there was always in the freezer a shelf of non-chametz items. In other words, and there, let's say I'm going to make a statement for the purpose that we're talking about right now. My chickens that I have all year round that aren't kosher Pesach, Are they chametz?
No.
They're just not kosher Pesach, right? So being that technically they're not chametz, so it's not clear that were sold, and I could possibly for this halachas consider them mine and not sold, and therefore the guy is coming to fix the freezer for me,
Right.
for my my chickens, and the fact that the guy is benefiting from it, that's so he got a free ride on my dollar. Okay, this is a very complicated question, and this has to do with the idea of how much is there a harama in the mechira. Just tell you, in the community that I live in Yerushalayim, one of the rabbanim over there is very serious about mechiras chametz, and he has all the people who sell chametz with him bring him to his shul, and they're locked up in a room. And one year on Pesach, the guy came and helped himself to a bunch of chametz. And
Means it's a proper sale.
right, but the people assumed that they were going to get it back after Pesach, right? Which they didn't, and it became a whole issue unto itself. So it's important that a person, when he realizes he's making a mechiras chametz, that he's willing to, if he doesn't get it back, to lose it. And I would just say, it's worth it, because owning chametz is an issue d'oraisa. So it's a good gamble. Okay, we'll stop over here.